My name is Elizabeth Belz. I'm a blacksmith, educator, and metal artist from Grand Marais, Minnesota, and I make metal insects, both large and small. I was a long-term healthcare worker for 13 years before I became a full-time craftsperson. In 2007, I took my first class at Penland School of Craft, where I became completely obsessed with blacksmithing. I was drawn to metal because it's a material that you can choose to leave marks on, or you can choose to clean up so it's a flat surface. It's also a very still material, so once you put it in a specific place, it stays there. I use metal in my work because I can do anything I want to it. I can make it really tiny and thin and it's still strong, it still holds its shape. If I need to do or learn some other technique, I just go and learn it, and that keeps me interested in the material. Also, metal is very formable, especially when it's hot, which is my favorite part about blacksmithing, is getting the metal hot and moving it. I was always interested in science and art as a kid, so bringing bugs into my metal work wasn't any big deal. It kind of felt like the next step. I like pushing the boundaries of what makes a bug. So I used to be really obsessed with the anatomy of the insect and going from making it as true to life as I possibly could. And now my work has kind of transitioned into this childlike state, essentially. And that comes from a winter residency at Penland. I just started drawing as fast as I could, and just to see what would still make an insect. So I added legs, a head, and a shell. And that still made an insect, and I was kind of fascinated by the idea of what could still be identified as an insect. What excites me about my own work is that I can take this material and actually build on it, so I can make it something and give it a soul. I love the idea of having a cold material that's essentially lifeless, that's mined out of the ground, and then I like to build it from the ground up. So I love doing the drawings, I love making all the tiny little parts, and then I love assembling them at the end. My process always starts with a photograph. I'm a very visual person, so anything that I see outside, if I get inspired by a stink bug, if I'm inspired by a horsefly, anything like that, I will immediately go on the internet and search for any kind of photo of that insect, and then I find one that specifically inspires me and kind of fall down that rabbit hole. And I start drawing it. So I draw things to scale, I draw things not to scale, and I kind of play with how the proportions work in the insect, and then I start forging as soon as I can. I think teaching impacts, or has the potential to impact, a person's life by giving them control over something they're doing with their hands. In the beginning, it was difficult to enter into a male-dominated field. I was one of very few women at the time that were forging, and that has caused me to focus my teaching on marginalized people, especially women, and it allows, I think, them the space to feel confident and just stronger in the things that they do. In doing this, I have found myself in all different places. I recently taught in Melbourne, Australia, Waterside Blacksmithing Studio's first all-women's class, which they've now made an annual thing. I love teaching because it's the passing of knowledge. It's the sharing of knowledge and the empowerment of the person who is learning.